There's no problem too big or small, no issue too hot or cold, and no subject these gentlemen won't talk about. Let's head into the lab to see what they're working to figure out today.
How old now?
3 months.
All right.
3 months, and he's focused on his 3 key activities: eating, sleeping, and pooping. Yep. He's doing pretty good at all those. Really dominant, so that's good. And he's sleeping pretty well. My mom is really enjoying watching him. So
Now, does she live here?
she does.
Yeah.
She lives in Old Town.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
So far so good, man. He's been over there
Being
for.
a grandparent, it's much better than being a parent.
She really she loves it.
Yeah.
So
So do we.
really glad that it's working out so far. So we'll see.
Where's
how it goes.
Emily's parents?
Connecticut.
Oh, okay. So,
Yep, they are from back east, and I don't know that you'll ever get them out here,
really?
which is fine with me.
I know that story.
I'm gonna edit
My
all this,
mother-in-law lives here.
all this out.
My mother-in-law lives here, so I know that story.
So I put the microphone pretty close there. Just
Okay.
do our best to project and not to yell, but
Yeah, I
just sort of
I
be
can do
mindful
that.
of that. So.
All right. Yeah.
All right, gentlemen. Well, let's get into it and get down to it. Welcome to Figure It Out. This is George Grumbacher. Joining me as always is Centauri Minor.
Hello, folks.
Centauri and I certainly believe in life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, but as it turns out, we may be doing it all wrong. Here to help us figure that out and move from awareness to action is Dr. Oliver Ross. How are you, sir?
I'm well, thank you.
Appreciate you spending some time with us today. I explained a little bit about Dr. Ross in the introduction, but one of the things we wanted to start with was Oliver focuses or writes about the practice of contentment.
I actually live it.
Okay, even better.
Yeah. So
How did you get started with that?
Well, I guess about 6-7 years ago, I kind of lost track of the time. It's really not important. It occurred to me that whenever I felt any degree of discontent, whether it was mild annoyance to deep depression, and all points in between, if I just took a moment and kind of searched back in my mind, what was the thought that preceded that feeling of discontent? Invariably, without question, it always related to wanting more, better, or different of someone or something, whether it was in the past or whether it was in the future. It always related to wanting more, better, or different of someone or something. And so I started keying in on that and really concentrating every time I did feel upset with my wife or upset with myself for not doing as well in something that I thought I should have, judging myself. And any other time when I felt any degree of discontentment, I started practicing ferreting out the thought that preceded it. And again, without question, it always related to wanting more, better, or different of somebody or something. For example, wanting more, better, or different of my childhood. My parents, wanting them to have treated me more, better, differently, right? Or in the future, wanting more, better, different clients in my mediation practice. Or even when I used to practice law, more, better, different cases, more, better, different clients, more, better, different accumulations, of money, of material things. It always related to that, whether it was in the past or in the future. So what I realized was I was robbing myself of the present because I was focused on what I didn't get or thought I should have gotten in the past, or what I wanted to get or I didn't get, in today or tomorrow.
Right.
So, and I thought to myself, man, that's a really waste. Here and I've been going, and I think that most people go through life all about, their thoughts are predominantly about the past and the future and what they didn't get in the past or might not get in the future. So it really rang true for me, and my habit is to write about things. I like to write, so I started writing about it. And the first year I started writing, and then I turned around, I don't know, months later, and I looked at what I wrote, and I went, "This is really, not good. It was really crap." So I put it away. Next year, but yet I this how should I say, mindset of always reverting to the past and the future about what I got or didn't get, and wanted more, better, different of, stayed with me. And so the next year I started writing again, and the same thing happened. I turned around, whether it was 3, 5, 6 months later, and said, third year, same thing. Fourth year, what I realized was I actually wasn't living the practice of contentment. So then I started to write, and it had life to it. It had energy to it. And so it took me the next 3 years to write the book, The Practice of Contentment, How to Acquire Natural Wealth, because Aristotle defined contentment as natural wealth. And so that's how the book came about. It's a work in process. I don't consider it done at all. I have a blog. Lately I haven't paid that much attention to the blog because I realized again that I got to give myself some more maturity in it. It's got to develop even further for me to really contribute to the blog in a meaningful way. And yet my practice is developing. In fact, I'll tell you that when I moved here to Arizona 21 years ago, the same year I moved here, I was in the spiritual group, and I knew that at that time I wanted to develop male friendships, because before I was very much workaholic, and I didn't care about friendships that much at all, really. So another fellow and I started a men's group, and we started off with 4 or 5 guys. It went up to 10 guys. Now it's down to like 6 guys. But we meet every other Tuesday, and we just met last Tuesday. So this has been going on almost 21 years.
Wow.
And we share intimately with each other. And not in a braggadocious way, but in a way when I was sharing about how this practice has just blossomed. I talk about in the book developing a predominantly appreciative state of mind. That's what the practice is about. Because wheretofore I used to have a predominantly unappreciative state of mind, so I didn't appreciate what I had. I was always focused on wanting more, better, different of what I didn't have, or at least my mind told me I didn't have. Now it seems like with this practice, and really it's a short period of time, say 3 years that I've actually been practicing contentment, I can go along, and like I was telling you fellows before, I've had a little back problems, and I'm still having some problems. So like walking up the stairs, I can't put one foot in front of the other. I do one step at a time. But I'm able to appreciate that I can even walk upstairs.
Mm-hmm.
So it's wonderful. It's so, first of all, it's so unexpected. I mean, I didn't expect to even think of this notion, right? This concept, this practice. But it seems to be just generalizing, and I think I have reached that tipping point where I think actually my mind is predominantly appreciative, filled with predominantly appreciative thoughts rather than predominantly unappreciative thoughts, because it's all about appreciation.
Mm-hmm.
It's all the practice of contentment. I could have called it the practice of appreciation just as well. So it's the gratitude. You know, when I years ago, I heard, and had I'm not going to go into all the history, but I was in a therapy group, and there was a priest involved, and the priest said, gratitude is the highest form of prayer. And it doesn't matter what religion, right? So I'm really, I really cherish that I'm grateful, that I can appreciate all the things I have.
Can you, to help our listeners wrap their minds around contentment and appreciation, can you give some more kind of real life examples of what that looks like in practice? So in your day-to-day, tell me a little bit about how that your new mindset is different than how you would have been 10 years ago, and something that happens in work or life or relationships.
It's really moment by moment.
Okay.
So when I realize, and I try and stay in tune with my feelings. So feelings are nothing more than a bodily reaction to the mind, if you think about it really. They're a reflection of what's going on in our mind, right? So I try and be very aware of my feelings, but throughout the day I'll be going along and an unappreciative thought will slip into my mind.
So give me an example of what that would be.
Okay, so let me think of, so this morning I woke up and for some reason I thought about my younger brother, and we don't have a relationship, and it there's a lot of background involved, right? And I thought about him in a negative way, right? And I quickly, and I could feel myself kind of tightening in my chest, and I quickly went to, more, better, different. You want something more, better, different. You wanted in the past, actually, him to treat you more, better, and differently, right? And, I was able to quickly go, but I appreciate that I am who I am, and I have all I have. Because my parents wound up disinheriting me and leaving their entire estate to him. So, that type of, so instead of focusing on what I didn't get in the past, right? And disregarding all that I can appreciate about what I do have and I've made myself, right? Not only in money, but also I don't know him anymore, but I'm really happy with who I am. So I appreciate who I am. Does that help?
That's really good, yeah.
It almost sounds to me like it's understanding what your true north is, which is this state of appreciation. And we're all going to drift towards off of that. It's a matter of being cognizant of that and then bringing yourself back to that true north.
Correct. And George, we're acculturated, I talk about this in the book, we're acculturated into more, better, different thinking. Because look, you pick up any magazine, you watch any TV ad, any type of commercial advertisement is telling you, the subliminal message is, you're not good enough unless you have such and such, right? That's what it's telling you. Instead of telling you to appreciate who you are and what you already have, it's telling you that unless you get this more, better, or different thing in the future, you're not going to be good enough. So it's really, when you look at it, it's really lowering your self-esteem. Every time you watch a commercial advertisement, the subliminal message is, you better get this, or you're not going to be as good as your neighbor or your brother, your sister, whatever it's going to be, right? And so it's really what's going to happen. I point out all the negative consequences in the book, but one of them is you're going to have low self-esteem, because if you continuously don't get all these things they're telling you you should have, what's going to happen to your self-esteem?
Do you think there's an opportunity for brands to use contentment in a positive way? So instead of saying what does not come from you, not purchasing our good, they can pivot that and use what you're thinking to really attract customers? Do you think that's possible, or do you think...
Gee, I never thought about that, but
Or do you think
We have this-
inherently it's consumerism is against contentment?
I think it is.
Okay.
I think it is. Yeah.
That's fascinating.
But I'd have to think about that.
That's an interesting question. To a degree, a lot of our culture flies in the face of contentment.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not to say that this is something that the practice of contentment is not in line with being ambitious.
No.
And-
Great point. So yes, I mean, but for our, well, let me preface this by saying, then we'll come back to that. In addition to being acculturated into more, better, different thinking, unappreciative thinking, we're also, our mind is actually structured that way. The left side of our mind is built to categorize, to divide into good, bad, right, wrong, all these dualisms, right? That's the way it's structured, and it really serves a purpose, because but for that ability to distinguish, we wouldn't have survived as a species, right? So not only are we acculturated, but our mind is, the left side of our brain is actually structured that way, to think that way. So there's nothing wrong with it. Look at all the advances in medicine, science, technology. But for more, better, different thinking, it's likely those advances wouldn't have come about, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's like anything else. It's the degree to which. So that's why I say a predominantly appreciative state of mind. Because when you come from a predominantly appreciative state of mind, you're able to be grateful for what you already have, right? In terms of yourself, as well as your possessions, and at the same time you're able to say, well, if I, like in my practice of mediation, if I'm a better mediator, that's going to help my clients, right? So it's that tipping point I talked about, developing not an exclusively appreciative state of mind, but a predominantly appreciative state of mind. Does that make sense?
And I think that's a really key thing, because somebody could be listening to this and think, well, that's great, but what if I want to improve, and what if I want nice things? And as long as you have that predominantly appreciative state of mind, then it's good. There's so many books and so much out there where people are trying to find happiness and their purpose, and it strikes me that a lot of the places that we're looking for that are outside of ourselves. We're trying
external.
We're trying to fill that missing piece inside of ourselves, which is a great Shel Silverstein book, The Missing Piece. But that's really probably never going to happen, right?
That we will find our contentment or happiness. And by the way, I distinguish between happiness. To me, using metaphors, happiness is like riding the crest of a wave, right? Oh man, this is exhilarating, this is exciting, right? Contentment is like slowly sinking into a warm bath. Okay, so I do make that distinction. Going to your question about, tell me again, I lost my train of thought.
People are looking for happiness, and they're oftentimes looking for something external.
Yeah. I'll just say it. Happiness, contentment, inside job. It's an inside job. It's first of all becoming aware of, I'm going to call it an unappreciative or a more, better, different thought, right? But the first thing is becoming aware of the feeling that's attached to it, right? But becoming aware of the thought, that without awareness we're blind, right? We don't know that we don't know. So the first thing in the practice is to be diligent in being aware of these thoughts that you're having, and not judge. So the next part is acceptance. And I was going to say, acceptance isn't about judging, right? Acceptance is about saying, oh, you know what? I'm human. I've been conditioned by my culture to think in more, better, different terms. My mind, the left side of my brain, is structured that way. So it's very human to have these thoughts, but to accept them with equanimity. In other words, to accept them without judgment, without comparison, without any type of in any type of pejorative terms. And then to move on to actions that can reinforce the growth of a predominantly appreciative state of mind. So one of the actions that there are several that I cherish, but one that I particularly cherish is every night I've developed this habit, say within the last 2 years. Every night when I'm falling asleep, my wife and I are spooning, and I'm consciously bringing to mind the things that I appreciate about myself and what occurred during the day. So I'm falling asleep, and I go, I really appreciate, and I don't use the word appreciation, but I just go through this mental list, but I appreciate that I exercised this morning. I appreciate that I have this wonderful wife who loves me. I appreciate that I meditated today. Just things that I appreciate about myself and what occurred in my life, all the blessings, if you will, that I have, instead of, laying there, I didn't get this today, she didn't do that today, I want more, better, different of her, I want better car, I want a bigger practice, a bigger house, whatever it might be. So I consciously bring to mind a list of appreciations, and within seconds I'm asleep.
So for our listeners, you would say that a good practice is literally going through nightly or whatever that time is of the day and thinking about and being intentional about what you do appreciate, to really get in the mindset of, these are the things I appreciate about my life, and making it a habit to do so.
Right.
Okay.
So what I'm actually doing is developing new neural pathways in my brain, because neuroplasticity, it's often spoke of today, that our brains are plastic. That means they're subject to being reformed.
Mm-hmm.
So when I'm in all the actions that I take during the day, when I'm falling asleep, if you look in my wallet, every time I open my wallet, I have a little post-it that says appreciation. In my car, when I'm driving, I have another little post-it by the odometer, and it says appreciation. So I'll be driving along, and I'll have slipped into more, better, different thinking, unappreciative thinking, and then I'll look at that, and I'll look up at, and here it is in Phoenix, a lot of asphalt, right? But I'll look up and I'll see some trees, and I'll go, wow, it's so beautiful. Look at the sky. Look at the trees.
That's a really easy thing for folks to do.
Yeah. But all of what I'm doing is building new neural pathways, and at the same time allowing my old neural pathways, the unappreciative types, to decay. Because when they're not used, right, they're going to lose their strength and their size.
I don't know that I know that up until a couple of years ago, I did not understand that you could actually change your brain. So when we're talking about neural pathways and neuroplasticity, that just means that you can actually train your brain to operate differently.
Absolutely.
Just
and
like
at any age, George, at any age.
Oh.
And I'm not saying this, I mean, the authorities say that.
And you don't need to do anything fancy to actually do that. It's just being intentional and constantly reminding yourself, that's right, I should be more appreciative.
Well, I wouldn't even put the word should. For me, it's like, do I really want to spend the rest of my life discontent, predominantly discontent? Yeah, I can get peaks, I can be happy about things, but that's not very long
Fleeting,
lived.
right.
It's like an itch, I have an itch on my arm, I scratch it, it goes away, but then it comes back and I'll find another itch, another part of my body or something like that. So this practice of contentment is a deeper, has deeper value, if you will. It's natural wealth. So what I'm doing every time I practice contentment in these different ways, I'm not only changing the neural pathways in my brain, but I'm also developing a wealth of contentment. And why would I, and I said this to myself, why would I hurt myself by doing anything else than appreciating the moment, what I have, and in terms of myself, in my mind, my feelings, my relationships, and my possessions.
We are absolutely conditioned to seek happiness to treat the symptoms of being discontent, right?
Yeah.
Retail therapy.
Yeah.
I'm bummed out. Instead of actually addressing the real issue, I'm just going to go buy something and get that little shot of dopamine that'll make me feel better. Or I go and eat some pizza, which always makes me happy. Or I'll go and drink a beer, whatever it might be.
And how long does that last?
It's very brief.
Very fleeting.